Hey guys, Zach here again with another knife impressions video. If you're watching one of my previous videos, last knife for 2012, one of your first knives for 2013, I made mention that I picked one of these guys up, and it finally showed up a few days ago. Combative Edge M1. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about this guy today and what I like about it, and comparing it to a few of these larger ones I have on the table. Alright, so first off, again, it's Combative Edge M1. The guy that owns the company's name is Rob Walker. Really good guy to deal with. I have one of his Salis fixed blades. Kind of just fell in love with it, and once these came out again this year, these 2012 model M1 and SR11, I decided I had to pick up one, add it to my ever-growing collection of folders. So let's just talk a little bit about the knife itself first. It's got a 3 3/4 inch blade. It's got a nice long blade. This is definitely a big knife for a folder. It's got a decent size slab of N690 CO from Italy. I believe these are made for Combative Edge for Rob from Fox Cutlery and shipped to the US. So it's Italian made, as you can see there. It's a titanium Framelock. So you got a slab of titanium there with the G10 side. So the G10 side, something to point out right away, is just G10. It's not G10 on top of titanium. It's just another slab of G10 as the other handle. It has a solid G10 backspacer, so it's not an open pillar design. And if you look at the handle here, it's kind of like a coffin almost. It's kind of like a coffin design, like a slightly bent coffin. Milled out indent here for your index finger. Works really well. This knife, I shouldn't say little, this is a beefy knife. Not beefy as far as weight. It's about 5.3 ounces overall, which is pretty damn light for a knife of this size. You can see, to get an idea here of this knife in my hand. You just see just how much of the handle sticks out. You know, I have a size large hand, glove size large, so it is a big flipper, but it's very thin, and I really like that about this. So if you're really a beefy knife person, if you really want a beefy hunk of knife like this Benchmade Adamus or a Dalibor or Medford, a really big tank knife, then this might not be the knife for you, because this is a very thin knife, and that's where I think you get a lot of the weight savings on it, even though it's a substantial blade length to weight ratio. And this knife, this knife is a purpose-driven knife. Okay, let's not mince words. This is a self-defense / fighting knife. It has, you can see the recurve here, which lends itself well to defense, and when you're cutting, that recurve just pulls material in. If you were to do paper or anything, or on skin, it's just going to cut really deep. You've got a nice unsharpened swedge here along the top of the spine. It's a nice little detail. A nice sharp forward run of jimping, and then a run of jimping towards the back here. So if you're choked back a little bit, or if you want to choke up and get to that forward jimping, or if you want to run your thumb all the way up on the spine, this area of the spine is nicely dished out right here for your thumb, so you can get a really good grip on this knife. Again, this is, and I think this is one of Rob's Combative Edge's main deals, is really they do a lot of training, a lot of self-defense for civilians and for law enforcement and military for knife fighting. Not knife fighting like in a cage, but self-defense for, this is your backup weapon, and you're having to use it to protect your life. So obviously you get a lot of features on this that lend itself well to self-defense. It is a flipper, so the flipper obviously becomes a nice finger guard. You get a nice finger groove. That plus the jimping puts this knife in your hand very securely. The handle is somewhat bowed out right here, so it fits in your hand really well, even though it's not very wide at all. You get a deep carry pocket clip which to me, this is, a lot of guys don't like this folded over clip design, and I understand, you know, that you want a nice chunk of your knife sticking out of the top of your pocket, but for where this clip rides, you get just a little bit. For me, this is like the perfect clip depth for my pants, is on this knife. Better than all of my other knives. This one rides the best. Just a little bit of it sticks out of the top of my pants, and it's absolutely perfect. Easy, very easy to get in and out of my pants. No issue at all. The clip is really strong. It comes set up for tip down carry. I went ahead and moved it because I prefer tip up. Something to note, if you have an older version, or if you've seen the older version of this M1, is that on the older version there was an over travel that either the pocket clip became the over travel stop, and it was up here if you're tipped down, and it had it almost mirrored how this is set up, a little horseshoe. So if you switched it to tip up, you'd move the horseshoe to the top here, and then the horseshoe would become the over travel, would hang over right here. Well, what you notice is one of the changes or improvements, if you will, on the newest ones, is that you have, hiding under the pocket clip here, your Hinderer style over travel stop. So you not only now have the over travel stop from the lock bar overextending this way, but you also get that circle in your lock bar to prevent this back and forth movement. If you do any kind of research, that is exactly what that over travel does for you. It gives you two ways of over travel the goodness, if you will. So that's a sweet little addition, and I actually just noticed that about a day ago, that was one of the biggest changes, was the different over travel orientation, how that works on this guy. You get a bit of jimping here at the bottom of the handle. None on the top part of the handle here, which is good. This knife is in my pocket like this. I don't like, personally, for me, I don't like jimping up here at the end of the handle, because when I'm reaching into my pocket, I catch on that jimping constantly, and it bugs the shit out of me. It really does. Kind of like this ZT, okay? It's 301. There's that strider-like jimping on the top here. I don't dig that when I'm EDCing a knife, because I'm always getting my keys or my hand or everything poked up on it when I'm digging into my pants. So I like that that's actually omitted from this one. So again, it is a flipper. It has a tiny little flipper sticking out. It does take a little bit of wrist action to get the knife to deploy. Not much, but a little bit. It's more of a button to release the detent. Think of it more as a button to release the detent, and then just give it a little wrist flip and it'll come flying out. The knife rides on, appears to be 2 bronze washers, which is pretty common, opposed to one of probably the main, if not the main competitor for this as far as design, your ZT 560, 561. Okay, if we were to compare the two, you'll notice that the 561 is a little bit longer. It's definitely wider. Definitely wider. It too has a fold over clip. It carries a little bit deeper. It has very similar jimping along the top here. The flipper, however, does stick out just a little bit farther. The overall height of the knife this way is very similar. Very, very similar. Except you do get a little bit more flipper on your 561, and of course the 561 does ride on bearings, and it opens also very, very smoothly. It does open a little bit more smoothly than this M1 does. Probably the only reason why it does is because it does ride on bearings versus this one on washers. Not a big deal at all. This knife lockup is perfect. No side to side, very little side to side anyway. You always, at least I always seem to have just a little bit of side to side play and expect it in a flipper to allow it to be able to flip freely. I could tighten it down a little bit more and have no play whatsoever, but it does hinder your ability to flip it open quickly, which is the main intent for this knife to begin with. No lock rock, no up and down play at all. The lockup is nice and early. You early lockup guys, you can see there. You've got a radius lock face. And the lockup is good and early, so we'll see how that wears in over time. Just kind of give you a nice look here at some of the details. Dual thumb studs. So not really ambidextrous in that the pocket clip is only set up for right side, but you do have dual thumb studs. You can open it with your thumb, but you know, with any flipper, pretty much the best way to open it is via the flipper. The detent is very good on this, and this I think is one of the last things I want to say. I haven't owned one of these in the past. I'm just making note of differences I've seen to the older version with this newer one, that the older ones apparently had a detent issue, maybe an issue, maybe an issue, maybe not, where there was you could shake the knife out really easily, so you didn't really have a good positive detent. This one, I can tell you, you cannot shake it out. Not easily anyway. Not easily like I've seen on some of the other ones. It really takes some doing, and that's kind of saying something, because it is a hefty blade. If we compare the blades here to the 561, you'll see that it's just a little bit longer, and it's definitely wider. A little bit wider blade, probably because you have that recurve there. And if we compare thickness, they're about the same, except that there's a little bit less taken off of the M1. So you've got a hell of a big blade here on this guy. So you run into a detent issue with any knife, I think, that has a blade this hefty, with that detent being able to actually hold the blade in under, you know, someone trying to shake it out. Like I said before, things I like about it over the 561 is that it is thinner. It is thinner and lighter. Feels lighter anyway. It rides in my pocket better. The jimping on the handle seemed to get caught up on my hands when I'm digging in my pocket a little bit less. So I'm not saying it all. I'm not trying to knock the 561. I love the 561. It's a great knife. Love the bearing system in it. Love how easy it is to open. 2 is the titanium Framelock. But, you know, overall, if I had to pick between the two, I could have one or the other, and that's it, I'm going to pick the this new M1 based on what I know so far. I dig the recurve on this one. It's not too deep like it is here on this 301. Here it is compared to the 301 width. I'm actually getting rid of this 301 because it's just too much of a brick in my pocket. The 301, beefy knife, great knife, assisted opener, but way too beefy. You know, you can see it's quite a bit thinner than the 301, quite a bit lighter than the 301 also. So there you go, guys. There's my initial impressions on the 2012 Combative Edge M1. Oh, let me just show you the centering here. You can see the centering is perfect. The lockup again is perfect. Everything about it is great. For a self-defense carry, everyday carry, great little option right here. Great little option. Let's just go ahead and do one more comparison to the Adamus. So these are some of my larger knives that I have. Give you a comparison to just how big this thing really is. There's the Adamus. Here we are with the 561. And here we are with the 301. Alright, last thing to mention before I go, this N690, in my experience, every knife that I've had with it, this stuff is great as far as being able to take an edge. This came extremely sharp. I mean, hair whittling sharp out of the box, and that's something you don't always see in a production type knife out of the box. They're always sharp, but are they hair whittling sharp? It's hit and miss on what you get. And on my Salus, my Combative Edge Salus, it came just as sharp, and just a little bit of sharpening, you can put a crazy sharp edge back on it. And I really like that. I really like this N690 so far in the past couple years. What I've had with it. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Again, check it out, Combative Edge M1. Talk to you later.